Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point FR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation with us. Again, we'll be talking with Mike Gonzalez of the Heritage Foundation at the bottom of the hour about the devastating report released by the Heritage Foundation on the impact of the Rubio amnesty bill on the federal deficit and the federal budget. And it's just bottom line deal is there's just no way we can afford it. We just don't have the money for it, even if it was a good thing, which it is not. By the way, you remember this. This is just kind of incidental on the Second Amendment. Remember last Christmas, Dick's made a big deal out of canceling orders for people that had ordered a Troy carbine from them, Dick's Sporting Goods. And they got all high and mighty and got all self-righteous about gun control, and they were no longer going to sell these hunting rifles because they called them like assault weapons and all that kind of stuff. Well, their sales have since flatlined. Their sales have dropped 2.2% in the fourth quarter of 2012 compared to 2011. So they are paying a price for their PC stand on gun control. Now, on the religious liberty front, this is an important development. The Tyndale House publishers, they publish Bibles. They applied for a waiver on this abortifacient mandate in Obamacare. And the Obama administration turned them down. You are not religious enough to qualify for the religious exemption. They published Bibles criminally here. And so what happened is they got turned down. Tyndale appealed. Their case was going to be heard at a federal appeals court, and the Obama administration intervened and asked the court to were trying to picture themselves, trying to make a case before a federal judge that printing business, a publishing house that publishes Bibles for a living, isn't enough to qualify for a religious exemption. Now, last Thursday, as you're aware, was the National Day of Prayer. I've got three sound bites here from Coast Guard Rear Admiral William D. Lee. Now, right before the National Day of Prayer that week, we talked about it on this program, Pentagon issued this deal saying if you share your faith, you're in uniform, and you share your faith, we're going to haul you in front of a court-martial. You could get thrown into prison. You could get dishonorably discharged from the military. You get a court-martial if you so much as hand somebody, a spiritually needy fellow soldier, a spiritual four laws booklet. That's how bad the thing was. Now the military, the Pentagon's tried to retreat from that, but they really haven't done it. They've said, well, evangelism is okay, but proselytizing is not. And what they mean by proselytizing is coercion, trying to coerce somebody to following your faith. Well, nobody's talking about that. It's a total straw man. And here's the problem. If you look those words up in the dictionary, evangelism and proselytization, they mean exactly the same thing. There is no dictionary difference between those two terms. So that means if the military is using a term which means exactly the same thing, and one kind of activity under that term is permitted, and another kind of activity under that same term, different term but same meaning, is prohibited, how are you going to know? So to me, it's still very murky, and still their religious liberty is in great jeopardy in the military because we don't know, and the military doesn't know what the rules are. Now, here is Coast Guard Rear Admiral William D. Lee spoke at the National Day of Prayer and asked Jeff to go through his speech, about a 14-minute speech, and Jeff picked out three sound bites, I think, that represent his commitment as a member of the military. He is not going to be intimidated, not going to be cowed by this politically correct suppression from the top. Here's clip one.
Right now, as we speak, leaders like myself are feeling the constraints of rules and regulations and guidance issued down by lawyers that puts us in a tighter and tighter box regarding our constitutional right to express our religious faith. As one general so aptly put it, they expect us to check our religion in at the door. Don't bring that here. Leave that business to the chaplains. I'm here to tell you there's not enough chaplains to go around. And who can tell that young man who is downtrodden and on his last legs, who has no hope, to go make an appointment to see the chaplain? Go get in line and wait. when the opportunity right now exists. Yet if I do something such as I did just several weeks ago when I was looking into the face of a young man, 20-some years old, who had 18 months before put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger and survived. When I looked at that young man and I heard his story, the rules say, send him to the chaplain. My heart said, give this man a Bible.
That's clip number one. He says, look, I'm going to do what God promised me to do, give that man a Bible, even though, according to military chain of command, he could get in big trouble for that, for exercising his constitutionally protected right to freedom of speech and the free exercise of religion. Do not forget, first thing George Washington did when he became commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, first thing he did was to appoint chaplains for the military, and he ordered his troops to attend divine service. It was not optional. It wasn't, hey, here's something you might consider. Commander-in-chief ordered his troops to go attend divine service. So you know who would get thrown into brig and cashiered from the military under this administration? George Washington. George Washington would be court-martialed, imprisoned, and dishonorably discharged from the military if he operated under this president and this administration. Here's soundbite number 2.
The problem that men and women like me face in uniform who are in senior leadership positions is that the higher you are, the more vulnerable you are to being taken down. You get in the crosshairs of those people who lay in wait outside the gate, waiting to take us to task for expressing our faith, for so much as whispering to a young man who is on his last hope that there is hope, that I can just simply whisper, and here is the answer. Take it home. I'll talk about it if you want. The lawyers tell me that if I do that, I'm crossing the line. I'm so glad I have crossed that line so many times.
So I got a huge response to that, people appreciating his courage. In fact, he's been told there's a line here, and because he cares about his soldiers, and you've got, I don't know what the statistics are, but it's alarming the number of suicides you have now, either current or former service members. It's like one a day. And he says, look, what people who are thinking about ending their lives, what they need is hope. And that's what faith, that's what Christianity, that's what the scriptures are all about. Here's clip 3.
There are 2 places in the Bible where it says that Jesus was amazed. One is at the faith of the centurion, a simple soldier, a leader of men. And the other was at the unbelief of his own townspeople. I am telling you that your own armed forces, the sons and daughters of the men and women like you that are wearing the uniform, there are thousands of them who have the faith of that centurion, yet we are being told to hide that light under a basket. I'm telling you that I am coming out today to tell you I am not going to run from my religious freedoms, from my right under the Constitution to tell a young man that there is hope.
That's Coast Guard Rear Admiral William D. Lee. May his tribe increase. Now I want to shift gears just